Greetings, YouTube. Someone asked me for more stories of role-playing adventures that I've run in the past, so I thought I'd do one this morning. Years ago, I ran a 2nd edition campaign, and it started out a standard 2nd edition, and then the Skills and Power books came out, the ones that I just shipped off last Friday. And we started using those rules, and we started adopting kits and things like that. It became quite interesting. And the party was, if I remember correctly, it was a fighter mage, a cleric, a fighter, a rogue, and there were at least 3 retainers, maybe 4 retainers in the group, along with sundry, pets and a familiar, things like that. And I decided to just kind of throw an adventure into the group for fun. One of the characters, the fighter, had decided that he wanted his character to have some extensive training done, and that took him out of the game. So he was able to play his one of his retainers, which was a kind of a Norse warrior type. His name was Odd, which is an actual Nordic name. I love that name, Odd. And so the whole group of players was there, but they had a slightly different character mix, though one fighter was being replaced with another. Though the Norse guy was a little less subtle than the one who was off being trained. So I decided I needed a kind of a short adventure, just nothing all that deep. That was not going to have any connections to anything else, because it was just going to have to fill in while that other character was being trained somewhere. And so I decided to dump in a ghost encounter that would then lead them to something else. And while camping alongside a road near a mountain pass one night, they heard a carriage coming up the road at high rates of speed, far faster than you want to be driving a carriage at night on a mountain pass road. So they came out to see what was going on, and a carriage did in fact come barreling past them, but it was a ghost carriage. And the driver was the only person there other than the ghost horses. And he could be heard to be saying a phrase over and over again, but they didn't know what. They couldn't understand the language. But the cleric felt drawn to this person. So they decided, okay, we got to figure out what's going on here. So they hung around, and I think I might have had some random encounters while they were in the mountain pass, to the next night, and to see if it happened again. And it did. This time they were prepared, and were able to cast a spell and comprehend language or something like that. That let them hear what he was saying, and he was saying the same phrase over and over again. I haven't got a prayer, I haven't got a prayer, I haven't got a prayer. And it was very hurried. He was trying to get somewhere, and he was convinced that he was not going to make it, that he didn't have a prayer. So they began to okay, what's going on? Why is this here? And they were able to get some more identifying information off the carriage as it went by this time. They were able to get a better look at it, get a few cues, clues, things were going on. And they did a little research, a little praying of their own, and it occurred to them, or at least finally dawned on them, that the individual in question was stuck here, trapped in this place, in this time, on this one little section of road, because he didn't have a prayer, that he had never received last rites, and his mission had never been completed. So he was stuck, repeating this over and over again until someone freed him. So the characters decided to hang out again for another day. And again, I think I rolled some more random encounters. And when this happened, the third night, the priest prepared, or the cleric prepared, on her horse, started riding as fast as she could, so that when the ghost appeared, she was running parallel with the ghost. And as the ghost is going along and paying no attention to the priest, because it's a ghost and it's kind of stuck in its programming, she gives its last rites to this person. And as the last phrase is spoken of the last rites, the ghost turns to her, looks her in the eyes, and thankfully, because she had the right kind of spell to be able to hear what he was saying, said, "Thank you." And then she was given a message. And the message was the location he had been trying to get to. It appears that he had been part of a funeral procession, and that he had been involved in this, and he had some key element for this process that had never gotten there, because while he was rushing to the funeral, his carriage went off the mountain pass road. He and all the horses died. He never completed his mission, and his soul felt bound because he failed his master. So they now knew where this tomb was. It was a forgotten tomb. So they then started heading up into the mountains pass. Again, just heading to the destination in question. Again, random encounters along the way. I think I may have had some pre-prepared ones. I'm not positive. Until they finally get to the tomb in question, where they go in and they find that they are looking at the tomb of King Roderick or so-and-so, and this famous individual, and inside was his tomb, his sarcophagus, all of the accoutrements that had been left for him to take into the next life, and a huge statue of him, a life-size statue of him, on his rearing horse because he had died in battle, along with certain items that were part of the statue but removable: his crown, his sword. There was one other item, I think it might have been his medallion, which were really heavily cursed. And the player characters were smart enough to look into this, do kind of magical detection, and figure maybe we don't want to disturb the items that are right on the statue's form, and they didn't touch the sarcophagus itself, but they did in fact loot the rest of the chamber and got a bunch of mundane treasures that had been left there, high quality stuff that had been left, masterwork things in 3rd edition. A bunch of just mundane stuff they could have found, things and food and things, of course, that was in horrible shape. But a few items that had been left behind as daily items that were now antique, because it was hundreds of years old, possibly worth something, along with actual treasure, gems, jewelry, gold, coins, things like that. And a bevy of magic items, both your traditional type of magic items, and of course magic items that I really happen to like, which is the mundane style of magic items, just like things that have a magical aura about them to make them useful in a world where magic is infused in everything, but they aren't necessarily adventuring gear. For example, like a pot that heats itself. I don't know if that was in there, but that's an example of mundane magic. It's magic that it'd be useful to a common person and adventure, but not specifically designed for an adventurer. So the beauty of this particular adventure is that you can dump this anywhere. You can set it for any campaign power level. You can be from 1st level characters. It could be for 20th level characters. It can be anything you want, anywhere you want. It can fit into any campaign. And that's one of the things I loved about this adventure. It was, even though I only used it once, I designed it so that in the future, if I ever needed it again, I could just pick it up and dump it into this setting, any other setting, and use it good to go. I could even, use all the treasures and stuff and just kind of put a little English spin on it if I had to make them fit to a slightly different rule system. Say, for example, going from 2nd edition to 3rd edition, I would have had to make a few tweaks to magic items, but nothing major. So that's one of the adventures that I ran years and years ago. It was basically called, I Haven't Got a Prayer. I wasn't particularly original at that time in my life. Not that I'm particularly original now. But I hope that somebody out there finds this useful, and maybe you can use this adventure in a campaign of your own.